Valentine's Day. It can be a scary love, I guess. A dark, scary love. Isn't that like Kanye? But
We live on
nonetheless,
YouTube too.
go ahead. Would you like to start, Miss?
Hey, family. Just a little bit
Excuse
before
me.
7 o'clock. We're going to get started at 7, but we want to welcome you to our channel or to my channel. I'm sharing my channel today, and I'll explain who my special guest is here shortly. But I'm gonna officially say, hey, family, welcome to my channel. If this is your first time here, welcome back to my channel. If you are finding yourself back to this channel, this is your Tuesday Sister Check In with your sister Erika. I'm Erika Jefferson Rivers, and I have a special guest with me today on this day of love, on this Valentine's Day. I have my love, my Charles, my forever Charles, my babe, my sugar, my baby. I got so many adjectives for him. My honey, my hubby, my husband.
You gonna
He
let them
does
know?
also have a name. His name is Charles, Charles Rivers. So welcome, babe. Thanks for being willing to join me.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right. Hopefully you can hear us pretty well out there. But I feel like we have a pretty good episode coming up for you today. We're really just kind of talking candidly. I always like to start off first by checking in with you. How are you today, family? How are you feeling? How is your heart? How is your head? I know Valentine's Day can be tough for some people because not everyone is booed up. Like I
True.
have my
True.
boo
True.
this year,
So
but
true.
there are plenty of years where I didn't have a boo. And so I understand how that might feel too if you desire to have someone in your life and you just have not realized that special person, that one you actually want to hold on to and that wants to hold on to you. And so, what I want to say is that we love you, and you are our boos for the next 30 minutes, whether you have a boo or not. Hold on to your love. We break out a random song
Forgive us.
so much. Song lyrics and movie lines are abound in
Yes.
everything
Yes.
that we
Yes.
do.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So we welcome you, boos, on this
Welcome.
night
Welcome.
of
Welcome. Welcome.
love to be with us
Thank you.
and
Thank you.
spend some time with us. So this episode, I don't want to spend too much time setting up the episode so that we have enough time to really just kind of converse and share information with you. If you are online with us on YouTube, you could go ahead and put information in the chat. Hopefully, I should be able to see anything there. We're also live on Instagram at Charles Rivers 9. I did not go live on Instagram on my feed this time. So
Hmm.
hopefully you're here on YouTube. Otherwise, you can catch us at Charles Rivers 9 on Instagram as well. But this episode I titled The Lion and the Bull. If you follow astrology, which we don't, but it's hard not to know a little bit about it. Charles is a Leo and I am a Taurus. So we are a lion and a bull household. And how, Lord. Mhm.
Let's hear where you're going with this.
how can two strong willed, headstrong people, right, come together after 27 years? Right? We first dated in 1988.
Hmm.
In 88, time to set it straight.
Whoop,
At
whoop.
88 was
That's
when we first dated. We were in our early teens, having a teenage love.
down,
A
down.
teenage
It's
love.
around the time it came out too.
It was. So we we dated in early teens and then, went our separate ways. We're friends, but just kind of check in with each other every now and then. This happened, life happened, babies came, a marriage and came and ended, and lo and behold, in 2015, we reconnected. And we reconnected romantically at that point. So we had reconnected a few times just by phone or chat or whatever as friends before, but we really reconnected romantically. And we married each other in 2020. So we got married on 8/8. Eight is an important number. Eight is also Charles's birthday. Eight is the sign for infinity, just
Chicken on the
never
side.
ending. And 2020 is hindsight, right? You ever heard hindsight is 2020
Okay, go
vision?
ahead with yourself.
And so our date means a lot to me. numerically. Okay. So we married in 2020. And so we want to spend a little bit of time in hindsight today to just talk about some of the things we learned. Right, babe? I mean, that's a lot of years
Between, yeah,
of lessons and
yes,
experiences to learn and to unlearn, right? In order to make this love work,
yeah,
right? To make
yes,
our love work. And
for
so
sure.
I want to get into that. We're going to talk about
On Valentine's Day,
on Valentine's Day,
yes,
yes,
apropos, yes.
what we've learned in three particular areas that helps us to sustain what we describe as a vibrant, fun, loving, supportive, beautiful partnership and union.
Say that, say that, say that, say that, say that, say that,
Hey,
say that.
to me, that sounds good to me. And so I want to go past these 2 years. We're still newlyweds. We've been together for 8 years in this iteration of our togetherness. But we are still newlyweds. But I do also feel like there's a wealth of just things that we bring. We have some great conversations, and I'm hoping, despite the lights, cameras, and action,
Some of it can come out.
that some of that will come out in an organic way.
Thank you.
And so, again, we're live on YouTube, live on Instagram. Please take this time to hit the like button, to hit the share button, to subscribe, to add a comment. This really goes a long way to supporting my channel. It goes a long way in supporting Charles's Instagram post, and just supporting us as we seek to put love and light and transformation and health and wealth and thoughts right out into the world. Is there
it's
anything else you want to add, babe? I'm sorry.
it's a lot of you do this full time, part time as a hobby in terms of posting, and you know how hard it is to get up, whether it be day after day, if it's something you do all the time, or maybe it's something that you do, like I said, on the side or a hobby. You know, it's difficult to get on stage, if you will, if this is the stage,
Exactly.
and to breathe life into a vacuum. Because if you're not talking to someone,
Hmm.
it almost feels as if you're talking to a vacuum, meaning there's no one out there. And so, if you get a chance, like as she said, like she said, hit a subscribe, hit a thank you, a heart, or whatever it is. Drop a question. We like questions to initiate some feedback, some dialogue between
Absolutely.
not just she and I, but she and I and you as well. So,
As a community. Yep. So we want to talk about three particular areas. We want to talk about what we've learned about ourselves,
uh-oh.
what we've learned about relationships
Okay.
in general,
Mm.
and also what we've learned about each other, what we've learned about our spouse
Ooh, amen, amen,
and
amen.
or the opposite sex.
No, hallelujah.
You say amen and hallelujah.
Okay.
Ooh, should we pray? Should we pray?
Probably should have prior to.
So we try not to script this. We did talk a little bit about what the questions would be, but we'll take some time and just kind of
Yeah, it's
interview
gonna
each
still
other. And
be
I've been
organic.
talking a lot. Ooh, so I'm gonna throw the question at you first,
Oh yeah,
special guest.
that's not how that usually happens between you and I. Okay, I'm not gonna throw it back. About ourselves, about
Yeah,
ourselves.
what
What
have
have
you
I
learned
learned?
about yourself in the span of what, 30 years? Actually, more than 30 years. Lord, I'm only like 23.
Yeah, it's the math is off. The
The
math
math
is
is
off.
way
We
off.
have to do some calculus or algebra to really figure this out.
You're gonna need some imaginary numbers.
So, with that being said, our our beginning is different for me. It's not different for me than probably that it is from you, in the sense that there was there wasn't many people prior to compare you to. I tell you this often,
Mhm.
and so with that being the case, um, unfortunate and fortunate, you became the prototype. I say this to you often. You became a prototype when it came to looking for someone in the future. Like even though we started, like she said, a teenage love early, it stuck with me for a long time because you became a friend. Don't you get me all sappy on here. You became a friend. You became a trusted advisee because you went to college, you went to high school before me. And so you were somebody that I can confide in and say, you know what, you ain't supposed to talk about your nervousness or nothing, but as a
Right.
young guy, but I'm telling you, I don't, and you say, it's gonna be all right. You remember passing through classes in the eighth grade. It ain't gonna be no different in ninth grade and whatnot.
Mhm.
And so the young cougar in you,
You said the young cougar. Ooh.
you was practicing for the older cougar, the one that you would grow into. And for the most part, one of the things my mother used to say to me um, when thinking about raising kids, she said, Charles, by the time they're 5, they're pretty much not set in stone as if people don't change, but some things about you, the things that I remembered about you that I enjoyed about you really didn't change. And you were found, when I found you again, or we found each other again, you enhanced.
Mhm.
Um,
But what did you learn about yourself
so that's
over
what you,
these years?
okay.
I know it's a
I mentioned
prototype. I was setting
I
the
mentioned
standard back in '88, y'all. Setting the standard.
uh,
Ooh.
and we are live. See, you got me talking. With that being said, that that made an impression on me, and that's
Mhm.
what I learned about myself. That's what I learned about myself from that junction on throughout life.
Mhm.
Of course, you have your mother, you have other individuals that you hold as a standard when you meet young ladies or whatnot. I want a woman that is, or even if it's an idol on TV, that you
Mhm.
might see some characteristics that you like. But when it came to my own personal development, since we're talking relationships and you and I in particular,
Mhm.
I had it was a standard that I looked for. I wanted to have someone I can have a conversation with, someone that, um, and with that being said, since I'm talking about myself in particular, I also had to step up to a standard. I
Mhm.
also had to be able to hold a conversation. Also had to be able to create some curiosity, create some admiration and whatnot
Mhm.
with the person that I was looking to draw into my world. And so, um, over 30 years, I learned that for myself, that I'm a, and you read this often now more so than maybe before. I'm an introvert. That's where I feel most comfortable, but I can pass off as an extrovert because I don't have a problem interacting with individuals.
Right. Mhm.
Um,
I noticed that about you.
okay.
That's question 3.
Okay, forgive me.
No,
Is
you're fine.
is that, can I pass it off on that, or
Yeah, you wanna ask me?
what have you learned about yourself?
Ooh, what have I learned? I'm for one, I'm constantly learning stuff about me, right? I'm constantly learning. There are some things I know I have learned about myself in relationship with others, right? I always tell you, and I've said before, I was the one that needed practice
Mm,
in terms of being married before and being married for being with my ex-husband for almost a decade, right? I mean, that was a long time
mhm,
to be to be connected with someone. And then there was, but because we reconnected so late in life,
right.
right, there was still that period of time after that relationship where it really was just me and me completing raising my children
Mm,
and not wanting to be involved right away with someone, which a lot of women
mm,
in this age group do, or women who have had children and then things don't work out, really put a lot of our time and energy into raising our children.
mhm,
And so I have seen my mom raise her kids and not get reconnected, right? And talk very bitterly about her, first and only marriage and being
mm,
divorced and not really wanting to be with anybody and she don't need nobody. And in the 90s too was like the whole, I feel like it was a big women's lib, right? Women don't
man
need
bashing
nobody, you don't
to an
need no
extent.
man, you don't need, we could do this, we could do that and the third. And we can, but
Mhm,
I also know for me, I was not closed off to finding love again, but I also was not for the foolishness. Like I'm just not for the
right.
foolishness.
Moving on.
What I know about me is that I can be bullish. I can, if you allow me to walk all over you because I will take control and run with something. I told you early in our relationship, I don't need nobody I can run over.
Mhm.
You do need to be able to stand up and hold your own, and with that, you know that there's going to be some butting, right? Or some friction, some conflict. Um I know that I'm a strong communicator. When my emotions are entrenched, it's more difficult for me to communicate.
Mm.
And so having someone that I can communicate with and who also understands communication has become really helpful. I know that I'm loving. My love is the bomb. If I don't do nothing else right, truly, if I don't do nothing else well, if I don't do nothing else right, I know that the way that I care for people, the way that I love people, the way that I pour into the relationships that are important to me, and particularly my intimate relationship and my relationship with you, I know that what I have to offer is like it's good, like it's good stuff. And so it's really just finding that connection, right? That
Right.
partnership,
I hear you.
to really enhance life. And I didn't leave a whole lot in these questions to really enhance upon what I think we do well. And we're already at 15 minutes past the hour to get to these next two questions. But there's a lot I feel that we've learned about ourselves, and then we talk about it and we'll say things like, I know myself, or I know.
Mhm.
But it's not in the sense of being stagnant,
Mhm.
like I know myself and that's it.
Mhm.
It's like I know myself and this is what I need to guard against, and this is where we need, and then we
Here's
leave
my
it open to have a conversation around, do I stay that person or do I need to put in measures to
mm,
tweak,
mhm.
right? Not necessarily change completely at this point, but tweak,
Mhm.
smooth the edges out.
Yeah, I know my kind of know my weaknesses and I know my strengths, baby. And
Mhm.
so help me in those areas and don't be afraid to follow me in those areas that I
Right,
am strong in and vice versa. And
right.
so yeah, in terms of to be authentic and to know yourself, you also have to know how you interact with people and
Mhm.
know how you show up and who you show up as for individuals. And so when I kind of went off on who I found myself to be up until this point, because when I whether the lights are on and off or off, I know that the story don't change. Like
Right.
the story don't change. Who was I? It's like certain people make a lasting impression,
Mhm.
and you are an individual that really have like teachers that I can say, "Yo, Miss Murphy, where you at?" Or Mr.
Right.
Killian, I know I shouldn't like you, but I did for whatever
Mhm.
reason. Some people, you connect with, and you don't always understand. Like I said with somebody else, no reason in the world a Leo and a Taurus supposed to get together according to astrology, but for whatever reason, we have found a way to.
Right. It's almost like a drawing back to each other. We'll talk about our reconnect story another day, but it really almost feels like a drawing back.
I hear
It's
you.
so weird. But what about relationships? I'll take this one first. I've learned a lot about relationships. I mean, honestly, I got a whole degree to
Whether you want it or not,
talk about relationship.
excuse me.
um, my undergrad in communication, right? I was drawn to communication really because I recognized that I wasn't a great communicator. Going back to what I learned about myself, I was not a great communicator. Was not a great communicator in my first marriage at all. Um, and what I learned about relationships is that uh, one person working at being a communicator is still not enough.
Mm,
Communication is interpersonal. It really
mm,
requires both people. If we're talking about two people, both people are responsible for making sure that meaning is being made and
mm,
understood.
mm.
And relationships need friction. Like it don't need constant friction, like that constant where it's like I didn't want the type of relationship where it
Yeah,
was constant friction, constant fighting, constant at odds, constant, talking down and thinking down about the other person, which is what I felt I saw more modeled to me more in my, in
mhm,
my youth.
mhm, mhm.
But I also had a relationship with someone who was lovely, but we didn't fight well.
Mm,
right? We everything looked great on the surface. We didn't raise our voices at each other as often, but we also didn't have important conversations. Like we didn't
sweeping under the
have the
table.
hard conversations
Okay.
in a way that was helpful. And I think when it comes to intimate relationship, and especially my relationship with you, and even relationships at work and relationship with my closest friends, is I hate to say that is work, because that makes it sound like it's all grit and grime.
Mm,
But relationship is also supposed to be fun.
mhm,
Relationship is also supposed to be fulfilling.
mhm, mhm.
Relationship is also supposed to be easy.
We hope. We
I
pray.
yeah, I think it is supposed to be easy. Now, all the time, no, there's none of it is supposed to be 100% of the time. There's
Yeah.
always this ebb and flow. I need to always talk to you about balance. And balance is not 50-50 either. Balance, it may look
Shows
very
up differently.
different.
Shows
Yeah,
up
like
differently.
a pound of feathers is a lot different than a pound of rocks in terms of you think of volume,
You got
right?
hit with one.
But we
Yeah.
still have to figure out, how do we balance out, our needs, our desires, our wants, our thoughts around how things are supposed to be done, our experiences around how
Mm.
things did or didn't work out before, our fears, our disappointments, you know,
Man, listen.
all those type of things. So that's what I've learned
Mhm,
the
mhm.
most about relationship, and I'll allow it.
No, mm-mm.
Yeah, go ahead.
Man, listen, I'm listening.
I learned a lot about
That's
relationship,
more
and I
like a
don't,
hallelujah. Go ahead.
I don't always do them well. Some I do very well, and I've learned that I need to put the energy, the effort, the
Mm,
consistency in the ones that I really want to
to
work.
succeed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, for me, it's like relationships. What are those things, you know? And
You said, what are those
and I'm gonna go to
aggravations that you
man.
deal
Listen,
with because you don't want to be lonely? No.
that's no, that's a key
And
point
some people
because
think
that's
of it
that's
that way.
that's why some people get into relationships because of the thought of being alone can be scary to some. Um, I've learned that uh, relationships are man, quit. Excuse me. I've learned
Yeah.
that for myself when I was younger, it's like, okay, let me see if I could juggle. If I'm talking about females, right? And you'd be like, that takes too much time. I'm not much of a liar, and
Hey,
so
thank God.
so eventually so eventually a truth will come out that I tried to omit or tried to color a different way,
Mhm.
and 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 as much as I can be aloof or standoffish, I also know that I can be possessive. And so if I'm looking to juggle and I'm being juggled as well, it's like, yo, you can't juggle me. I'm the juggler. And so,
Ooh, that sounds
and
just
so,
like you.
and so the younger version of me learned that I can do that. But like I said, and for me, at some point, I knew whether I was gonna get it or not. I knew I wanted something consistent,
Mm.
something so I can focus my energy on other things other than to chase all the time. If I'm gonna chase something, I want to chase something beyond something that's gonna be for a night, a week, a
Mm.
month, a year, 2 years. And so um, I can forever chase you around this apartment, around the idea. I'm still trying to get you to do. And so it's still with the same goal intent, but you know what and who you're working with. It's you cast out variables that's not any worth even
Mm.
dealing with in the first place.
Mhm.
Um, in terms of learning, in terms of relationships, I'll speak for you. I'm a Leo, and so I go into a relationship knowing that I'm never wrong. I mean,
Nah, never.
and I say that tongue in cheek, but it's also a part of me feeling like, and I
Mhm.
feel like I extend the same graciousness to other individuals though. Like I know you probably if you're that passionate about it and you're talking to me like that, you really feel that way about something. I may not be able to see it and understand it, but you're not wrong.
Mhm.
That is your reality. That is how you feel about whatever it is I said, whatever it is I did, or whatever it is about your day or how you've been raised. That is something. And you're right. Now, how do we take those two different perspectives and mesh it and create something that can be beautiful
Mhm.
and not be so destructive to one another? And I think just because you got clashing instruments, we both like music, doesn't mean that they can't make you got two. I won't even say clashing. You got two strong instruments.
Mhm.
Doesn't mean that they can't coexist and create something that's beautiful. And so
I like that
um,
analogy. That's nice.
I just think in terms of work, um, how people say if you do something you love, you won't work a day in life.
Mhm.
There's always a different version of how you can look at something differently and take a positive look at it, take a positive spin, and not blindly jump into the positive, but to see it as half full and still be able to pour into that
Mm.
instead of always pouring out the positive just to see the negative. And I'm one of those individuals that when it comes to coming up, I can gravitate to the dark side easily.
Yeah.
And so I know these
We
things.
have to pull each other back from that dark side. That's one of the things I think about both of us, truly
Yeah.
moving into that what we know about the other person. But
Mm-hmm. And so it's like, yo, no, that ain't what we on today. Oh, that's what I was gonna say. Motion creates emotions. And so
mhm.
that was the other piece that I thought about talking about when you mentioned friction. Not all friction is bad. You mentioned that
Mhm.
in some of your posts.
Right.
Sometimes I'm high energy, sometimes you mellow, and sometimes you want to do something. I'm like, oh, here she go. I just now wanted to relax, and now she want to be on. Okay, let's do it. What we on? What we doing?
yeah.
And that's the friction. But there's a middle ground. And what I've learned about myself is at some point there's a yes or no in your head, and you can. It's like where you choosing, you're actually choosing at that moment if
Mm.
you're going to go into something pleasantly or you're going to be dragged along or you go say no
Oh, you gonna be dragged? Okay.
or you go
I got you.
or you go you know I'm gonna talk truthfully, you go say no and you go do it. Like it's all kinds of ways that people say
Mhm.
yes or no, and just being honest with
That was on
yourself.
my points for this. I tell you out all the time. Mark this on your calendar. You need to remember. I said yes. You need to remember. I said yes to this.
You go have to say yes again if we really being honest. Like,
right. Right.
and I know I'm gonna have to say yes again or no to something, but I like I like that you will offer me a yes. And there's times where you'll offer me a yes, and it's like, no, I don't really need that though, not right now, baby. Thank you. Because when you get somebody that's really about you, and it's not to say everybody will find a love in their life if they put themselves out there, because there's a lot of loving people out there. With this being Valentine's Day, there's a lot of loving people out there. Sometimes we just happen to catch people at different. It's not that
yeah.
that was a.
Different
Mhm.
iterations. Yeah.
We've said this about individuals. It's not that every person you come in contact has been a bad person. It's just sometimes you're on A and they on A2, but it's a different font, and y'all don't understand.
It's a different
It's
font. Come on. It's cursive
she's
and
working in cursive. I'm using graffiti, and it's like, can you read this? No. Okay. Okay.
All
Okay.
right. What are you saying? But we speak the same language often. And when we don't, we are really able to paint the picture
It
for the other
helps. It
person.
helps
And we're
immensely.
willing to consider that there's another way to look at whatever the picture is. Like I
It's
said, I just only being able to paint it, but you also have to be willing to leave your mind, your thoughts open
open.
enough
Mm.
to consider it. What have you learned about me in our last couple minutes?
Uh, what I learned about you.
Yeah, it didn't take you 30 years in. You only had about 8. And whatever you thought you knew about me at 14, which I'm gonna say that person is that's a glimmer.
I've learned that you have the memory of an elephant. I haven't said this to you. It might come and go, and I think sometimes you hold on to it to bring it up at appropriate times. I learned that you are attack. You have a lot of tact, and that you don't like it when you are pushed to a point where you don't have the ability to show your attack.
yeah.
You always want to show up as your best self, not just with me, but in all your environments and all your relationships. And so it takes a lot of energy to do that. That's a hard thing. I say to you, and I say to
Mhm.
myself, you don't have to be a perfectionist, even though it's actually working against yourself to not be a perfectionist.
Mhm.
And so go ahead and be the perfectionist you go be, but at the same time, pat yourself on the back for even trying if you haven't been perfect. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? So
Mhm.
and and that makes an easy person to love because if a person want to love you perfectly, all you got to do is not mess up.
Ooh, say it again for the peanut gallery. Say it for those in the back. Say it for those in the back.
uh,
Man, all you gotta do is just not man.
but
No, yeah. I hear you.
I mean that's a simple but an
Mhm.
effective way of looking at it. Like everybody go put their foot in their mouth or move a way that they shouldn't have moved. But if you, I've learned with you in particular, if you come um, honest, maybe not so direct. That's the part that I have to work on with myself. Maybe it's not so direct, but if you come honestly seeking reconciliation or forgiveness or whatever it is,
Mhm.
um, it may take time. 28 years, right? In between now and
In
then, and it
between to
wasn't and it
figure it out.
wasn't
Yeah.
necessarily because of those things, but um, in terms of learning about myself, that's what I probably should have led with about being patient. One of the biggest things my father used to say to me is, "We'll be playing chess or whatever it is, and I get frustrated easy. He say, be patient, be
Be
patient."
patient.
And so,
Mhm.
if I really was to be honest and open up without the cameras and started all over, like what I learned about myself is, I have some patience, but sometimes I don't, and sometimes I'm tolerant, and sometimes I'm not.
Mhm.
But in our relationship and about my spouse, um, as if the cameras was off, I say I got lucky.
No. See, you trying to be mushy before I answer. Well, that's all the time we have, folks. No.
Hold up, hold up.
No,
That's okay. That's okay
no, what I know, or what I feel like I've learned
though.
about you, or that I
It's all the
continue
sound we had.
to learn about you, is you have a pretty strong sense of yourself, but almost to an extent where you hold yourself back.
Mm,
I see you as very loving, that you are tender, you desire words of affirmation, and it speaks well to my wanting to affirm
mm.
you.
Oh, I like that.
You
Go ahead, girl.
you bam bam.
I break all kinds of
And
stuff out you.
sometimes you approach things from that mannish type of way. And I'm thinking about terms I use sometimes with
Hmm.
you, like
Hmm.
bam bam or being mannish,
Hmm.
and but you're open to being tender,
Mm.
like you are tender. I try to hip you a little bit more to the finesse of trying to
Finesse,
get
yeah.
things done sometimes.
Instead of direct.
You are well, but you're it's interesting that you'd like to move more directly, but you're an indirect communicator.
Mm, I can
And
hear that.
sometimes the level of patience I need to use to listen to actually hear the essence of what you're trying to bring forth, because you can be verbose
Hmm.
at times.
Hmm.
But I also know that when I give you the space to do that and you feel heard, it's like the biggest gift in the world. Like I feel like it's like truly one of the biggest gifts
Hmm.
that I can give you. It's just that you feel heard, that you feel understood, that you feel valued,
Hmm.
and you are valuable. You are intelligent. You have a great way of looking at life. I'm grateful for the way that you pulled me out of my dark days, and just the way that you love me. Like you love me. You try more and more all the time to love me the way I want to be loved. Right? You love me from your point of view, but you are also letting go of that kind of Leo mindset,
It's how you supposed to be loved,
which you really won't,
girl. I
which you
see.
really thinking. But no, I think those are the things I've learned about you. I've learned that you carry um when people say or do things against your character, like that attack your character,
Mhm.
those cut you deep because your
Yeah.
character is important to you.
Mhm.
And I think you are a man of character and integrity. And yeah,
Uh-huh.
I'm glad to call you my love, my Charles, my husband friend.
I'm about to cover up the.
Oh, you feeling mushy? Let me get a kiss. Mwah.
Okay.
So we did go a
Oh my
little bit
goodness.
over our time,
I
and
had some more. No, go ahead though.
yeah, some more. I
Mhm.
know
Go
because we
ahead.
could talk about like we do. We get
All
on
day.
long tangents, really just kind of talking about just our relationship and life. And that's another reason why we celebrate our love on the 8th of each month. It's not just a celebration. It's not just, oh, we going to dinner, we doing something fancy. It really is time for us to check in. We check
Right.
in with each other. We
Right.
ask ourselves these type of questions all the time
That's the
or
work.
often,
That's the work.
often.
That's the
And
work.
that's the work.
That's the
Yeah,
work.
it is. And it's hearing and believing it
If
and
you really,
receiving it and figuring out how that incorporates into the direction we're moving in, and like what do you chew and what do you spit out,
right.
you
I
know?
was thinking like that's the work, and not everybody will do the work, will survive a relationship, and not everybody that don't do the
Yeah,
work doesn't mean it won't survive.
that's true.
Because some people can, I hate to say it this way, sweep stuff under the rug and just move on just because for the sake of moving on. However, our relationship, there has to be something. Most people say don't go to bed mad at each other. There will be some times where we'll give each other space, but eventually something will come back
Yeah,
to bring up whatever it is that we were
yeah,
toiling about or considering or frustrated about when it comes to each other.
right.
Um,
Or just pissed off.
Flat out,
We
right.
piss each other off. Usually it's not on purpose,
I, I,
but
I, I think part of
yeah,
that is
to wrap it up.
not just because strong individuals, but the idea of when we wake up, we still wake up from our own point of
Yeah,
view. And it takes some time of checking in and
yeah,
understanding. Um, oh, I forgot. I was in my own world. Let me come back to the
mm,
land of E and the land of E and C or C
yeah,
and E. And
yeah.
so,
And check in
mhm.
so we can be strong together.
So check
We're
in with a close friend of
strong.
yours. If y'all got a relationship, it's not just,
Right, right. And
forgive
so
me.
that's where no, that's good because that actually reminds me of something the writer said the other day. And I was saying that we don't really celebrate Valentine's Day. Like we don't necessarily celebrate the holidays
Hmm.
because we put a lot of our energy into make sure we're checking in just when we want to, when we need
Right.
to,
On
and
the 8th in
particularly on the
particular,
8th.
like you said.
And then various other times, so don't make the holidays feel quite as and I think too because of just some of our religious backgrounds, we don't necessarily get heavily involved in a lot of the holidays. But one writer did mention that she didn't have a boo at the moment, but she spent that time checking in on her parents and she
Mm,
would get together with her sisters. And another writer talked about doing Valentine's Day, like her and a couple of her girlfriends got
gas.
together
Okay. Okay.
and they, got gifts for each other or spend some time together. And so to wrap this up, and we
Okay.
we
Keep
did
this
go a
together.
little bit beyond our time, as my love was saying, consider that this is your call to action. First call to action is look at other videos on my page. I talk a lot about mental health and how we can be mentally wealthy
Mm,
and encouraging and type of words,
true that.
right?
True
That's
that. True
how
that.
I show my love in a way for you to be able to get replenished if you're feeling a little bit low on love. Check Charles Rivers 9 on Instagram, search Charles Rivers on Facebook, and check out some of his posts as well. He regularly sends out just quotes of the day, also does some live feeds. And again, it's really all love, it's all encouragement, it's all joy, it's all about fitness in many areas: physical, mental, financial, and relationship
Hmm.
fitness. And so, if there is a relationship, after you take, well, not after, in addition to taking a look at some other things on our sites, do a relationship inventory. Do a check, do a
That's good.
checkup,
That's
do a
good. That's
check
good.
in.
That's good.
There's probably some people just haven't talked to. It may be someone you fell out with, and it's been enough time now that things may have been settled enough to check back in. And you determine that, right? I'm not telling you what you should or what you ought to do or what you must do. There are certainly some relationships that are exactly where they need to be in the grave. But if there's an inkling or pull in your heart at all, in your spirit toward reconciliation, or just even some relationships that you know you've allowed to fall by the wayside because you've had a lot going on, or there's just a friend you haven't heard from and you don't know what's going on in their world, spend some time in this week and the rest of this month to just reach out, reach a hand out. Okay. This is your sister Erica, Erica Jefferson Rivers, with my love, Charles Rivers. He'll always say,
Yo, what's up, man? What's up? Not what I said to people.
always be coachable. What
Oh,
you
I'm thinking in
say?
the beginning because that's
No,
you
at
open
the
the
end,
same way
we're
you end.
finishing.
I know, but you
Oh
start
my
the same
God.
way.
He would say,
You start as you win.
Art by
This is
Charles.
Art by Charles. Always be coachable, and it's the alternate route to your success. Holla at me.
And this is Erica Jefferson Rivers,
Good
your
evening,
sister
miss.
Erica, with your Tuesday sister check in. Thanks for joining us, family. Have a magnificent rest of your week. Love you guys.
Peace.
Bye.
Thank you.
Industry.